process today. I'm not going to go through a big PowerPoint presentation. What I'm going to do is walk through how to set up Google Drive and how to use it and explain what it does in the course of doing that. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually share my screen with you. So we'll share the screen, and here we go. You should be able to see my desktop. And if you look down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the symbol for Google Drive, which is currently running. Or actually, as the program's called on a PC, Backup and Sync. Now, if there's time at the end, I'll show you how to set it up from absolute scratch. But I want to start with a running version so that I can see this, show you the settings that you have when it's running. So you go down to the Backup and Sync item down here, and we left click on it. It brings up this screen, and on the right there are 3 dots. And they're the ones that we're going to look at. And when it pops up, we have an option for preferences. And that's what I'm going to open up. So while that's opening up, the thing about Google is they give you 15 gigabytes of free storage. And that free storage is shared between Gmail, Google Drive, and Google Photos. And you can choose what you do with Google Drive, which is what we're looking at the moment. So this is the app that you get for a PC to run Google Drive. If anyone was on the session on normal backup for Windows, you'll remember that we looked at backing up desktop documents and pictures in Windows Cloud Storage. Well, Google Drive gives you a very similar thing. And you'll notice on this one, I've got the name of my PC up the top, and it says one connected folder, which reflects that I've only connected the pictures folder on this PC to Google Drive. Now, I've done that to avoid clashing with Windows itself, and because just looking at how it works with one folder will help understand how it works in general. So normally on your PC, the important folders you're dealing with are desktop, where you'll see I've got a few things on this desktop here, documents where Microsoft suggests you store all your documents, and pictures where all your pictures are stored. So you can back up all or some of them. And the way the backup part of Google Drive works here is when we decide to back up something on this PC, online in your Google Drive storage, they create a set of storage for this PC, and it's unique to this PC. And within that set of storage for this PC, I have a pictures folder being backed up. If you've got special folders of a different type, you might have an application that stores all its data in a folder other than these 3, then you can go down here and choose a folder from your set of folders in your user. So I could, for example, decide to back up my music folder. If I, just for the demonstration, select it, it will come up. It's checking that I want to back it up. Not very much in my music folder on this PC because it's a club PC. So now I can back up those 2. The other part of Google Drive is Google Drive itself. And it's a bit confusing that you've got this part that they call Google Drive, and this part, and another part, which is part of Google Drive, which is your PC backup. Still, that's the way it is. Before we go off this screen here, there's a really important setting here, which says removing items synced between Google Drive and this computer. And you get a choice here of always remove both copies. In other words, take the copy of the file you've removed off this PC and out of the online Google Drive copy. Never remove both copies. I don't quite understand that one, but we'll leave it for the time being. And ask before removing both copies. In fact, I'll come back to it. Never remove both copies means that if I delete something on this PC, it's gone. But the copy that I had stored up in the cloud is left there. So you can use Google Drive in that format to keep a record of what you've been doing. And if you accidentally remove something and then a few days, weeks later, you think, I had this wonderful document I prepared and I really didn't mean to delete it, you can go to Google Drive and there it will still be. Or you can do the reverse. Now, if we move down, after you do that setting up, the main thing you would go on to is look at Google Drive. And there's another area of your Google Drive, which if you have two PCs, for example, is common to them both. So the area that we've just been talking about is unique to this PC. There's an area called Google Drive, which is common. So if I have two PCs, I can put something in that area of Google Drive, and if I change it on PC 1, it'll appear on PC 2. And I get the choice with that area of Google Drive of syncing everything that's up there down to this PC, or only syncing folders that I want. And if I click that there, I can go through and look out, and I could decide that actually there's a few in. I might only want to have a couple of folders out of that. So I uncheck them there, and now I would only sync 260 meg down to my PC, not the whole half gig. I'm going to cancel that because I don't actually want to change it. I'm going back to where we got there. And instead of going to look at the settings, which we'll come back to and talk about, you'll see where I'm hovering my mouse, it says, visit Google Drive on the web. So I'm going to do that and go and look at Google Drive for this PC. And you see there's an area up here on the left, My Drive. That's the common area that will get synced to everywhere. And then there's an area called Computers. And you'll see there's an area for my laptop, for AvPal's mini PC, and for the Asus laptop too. The one we're using, this one, is AvPal's mini PC. So I can go in here and have a look. And there is Pictures, Documents, and Desktop, which have been synced up there. And I can go into Desktop, which I synced up earlier, and I see what was on my desktop. And Pictures is there as well, and Documents. So we'll go back. So it's an area for Computer. There's a different area for the AvPal's laptop, and it's only syncing Desktop and Documents up there. It's not chosen to sync Pictures. So you make the choice independently on every PC you've got. Now, for most of us, that's probably only one PC. But in the past, I've worked with two PCs, and it is useful to be able to back up both PCs independently. Now, this is different from the way in which OneDrive works, the Microsoft built-in backup to the cloud. Microsoft assumes that if you want to back up the desktop, you'll want to back it up and be the same in all your PCs. So it's slightly different, and you have to watch that. Let's go back down and look at Google Drive. And will pop up and go to Preferences. For some reason, it's always slightly slow to add. Now, what you'll notice is it's missing the folder that I selected wasn't there. Oops. Got carried away with the clicks there, and I clicked at the wrong point. I'll just cancel, which is probably when I went in earlier. Wonderful. I've just had Google Drive hang up on me. Now, what can I do? I'm going to unshare my desktop for a second. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my desktop. And we'll come back and talk about what we do with Google Drive. Let's just have a look at, see if I can restart Google Drive. And I'll back up and sync. No, I can't. Okay, a bit of a hold up there, and it looks like there's not a whole lot I can do about it. So I'm going to have to talk about the last few things I wanted to talk about. Right. I think what I'm going to do, because it would be very confusing, I'm going to actually disconnect and log out of the user I'm on. So I'll be gone for a second or two so that Google Drive will close. So I'm just going to leave the meeting for a second.
Can I ask a question about that? Greg, do you know if it was because Jim went to the other computer?
I'm not sure, Annette. Well, why he logged out?
No, but with his problem. I just noticed that he was on the AvPals 2 computer when he showed us how to do that, and he wasn't on the original AvPals Mini or whatever he had. And I've just been trying to think what might have happened, and I have no idea. I'm just asking because I get terribly confused with all of this.
I think that's what you'll have to ask Jim when questions and answers come on, because I'm not aware of what he's got in front of him at the moment. Actually, okay. He always seems to have a lot of.
Hi, I'm back. Okay, sorry about that. So here we are back to Google Drive, back up and sync down here. I can now get back to the preferences. And I'll share my screen with you. And there you can see preferences again. So the first time I went through, I went to choose the folder. We went to music and selected it. What I didn't do is click the OK button down at the bottom here, which is a bit slack of me. So I'll click it this time. And having done that, it assumes that I'm finished doing what I want to do. And it's busy restarting the sync engine. Go over and we'll go to Google Drive on the web. And you'll see now that the music folder is syncing through. So you've got to be careful when you're changing things with Google Drive that you click the OK at the end when you're finished, which in my rush I didn't do. And over here you will actually see on your screen, you will see the messages as it sends up the files in my music folder up to Google Drive in the cloud. Okay, so Google Drive, very useful for backing up your computer. Useful here in the My Drive area for sharing files between different computers. And we've got some other options down here. You can share files with other people, and people can share files with you. And you can see on My Shared With Me, there's a file there which was shared by Peter, so that I can see who's coming to these presentations. Recent's what you would expect, and there's a trash because I can delete stuff from Google Drive. Now, I might just put that out the way for a second. Go back to Google Drive and the settings. Before I go to the settings, you'll see there are three icons all across the top here. There's one icon which allows me to open the Google Drive folder. That's that area which is stored on the online version of Drive to be shared between multiple computers, and which you have a copy of here on your own computer. Google Drive in the cloud, which we've just been looking at. And this last one is Google Photos in the cloud or on the web. Now, the interesting thing about Google Drive and Google Photos is the two are separate. But you can move files from Google Drive into Google Photos and see them in Google Photos. So let's go back to the last little bit of settings and bring up preferences, as they call it. And it gives you some options in relation to Google Photos. And it says down here, upload newly added photos and videos to Google Photos. Now you could check, I can check that one and uncheck these. So the only thing I might be doing with backup and sync is sending my photos up to Google Photos. If I do that, they won't appear in Google Drive as photos. And the final thing down the bottom, which might be helpful to other people, is USB devices and cards. You can choose to back up the camera card from your camera, or even the whole camera if you connect it with a cable, and store it in Google Drive. Okay, and we've talked about Google Drive settings. We've looked at the connected folders. The final lot of settings, which are really simple that I want to talk about, are these. You can choose the fairly self-evident. The last one is quite interesting. It's what shows if I go to the Google Drive folder, which I will in a second. We'll get some ticks and I'll just show you those. So go to the folder. And you'll see here's Google Drive. This green tick says that that file has been passed up to the cloud. It's been backed up on the cloud. There's not much in the Google Drive folder. And if I go to my pictures folder, you'll see there are ticks there showing me that my pictures have been backed up in the cloud. And finally, before I finish up, let's go back to Google Drive in the cloud to see an interesting feature. One thing which Google gives you to do with photos is it allows you to load them up in two different ways. You can load up the original of a photo, or you can load up what they call a high quality photo. And the high quality photo is equivalent to a 16 megapixel photo. So for most of us, except with really new cameras, that's perfectly adequate. So if I have a quick look on the mini PC where I've backed up some photos, and you'll see the size of the photo there, that one is 5 meg. It says the file size, storage used 5 meg. Earlier, I backed up the same photo from a USB. And it's 5 megs, I picked the wrong one. It's the same photo backed up when I did it with it set to high quality, and over in storage use, it shows 0 bytes. So I'm not using any storage. Okay, I've talked for about 20 minutes, which is usually long enough to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. I think we might pause and see if that made sense or if you have questions. So, any questions? Oh, I must have confused everyone.
Anna had a question before.
Jim, I was just wondering, when you were having that problem, you'd gone into computers and you'd selected a different computer, not the mini AvPals one. And I wondered whether that was causing the problem. You couldn't get back into the Google Drive because you weren't on the other computer?
The thing that caused the problem is that I was moving the mouse too quickly and clicked on something that Google Drive couldn't back up.
Okay.
So when it went off to validate that it could actually back up that folder, it couldn't do it, and it seemed to get itself stuck. And I couldn't find a quick way to stop Google Drive while I was talking.
Right, thank you.
Now, yes, John has a question.
I'm unmuting you, John. No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jim, can I move the photos into in my computer onto Google Photos?
Yes. You can do that with or without Google Drive. You can either put them up in Google Drive I'll just share the screen and
Okay.
run through it. So you can start Google Drive. We're in the settings here, or preferences. Yes. So you can back up by selecting the Photos folder here. Then it will back up everything in pictures to Google Drive.
Right, okay.
Now, that's at that point, not in Google Photos. You can choose to click this box where my pointer's hovering to upload straight to Google Photos.
Right. Okay, Jim. Thank you very much for that.
Alternatively, if you've got all your photos stored in Google Drive, you can go to Google Photos and ask it to import from Google Drive, and it will pick up photos out of Google Drive. So, and you can do that selectively. So you could back up all your photos in Google Photos in Google Drive, and then use Google Photos to pick up the ones that you wanted to put into albums. You don't need to pick them all up. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you very much, Jim.
The other thing to know about Google Drive and Google Photos is they are actually independent. So if you move photos into Google Photos from Google Drive and decide later on to delete a photo in Google Drive, it will still stay in Google Photos and vice versa. So actually makes 2 copies.
Okay.
And as long as you're on high quality, you're not using up any of your 15 gig. But if you go to original quality, then each photo counts towards your 15 gig quota.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just
Any more questions? John.
Jim, you added one folder to the default 3 that were already there. Is there any limit to the number of additional folders that you can add for backup?
Not that I'm aware of, John. I would think there's not any practical limit. I don't know about you, but I tend to keep my folders reasonably well organized, and it would pay to keep your folders organized and have subfolders if you need to have lots of different topics.
So a folder that's backed up would also automatically include subfolders?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
And you can actually see that in the structure on Google Drive when you look at it. You can see the subfolders are there.
Thank you.
It has to do that basically because the whole idea of the documents folder for many people is that you would organize things within the documents folder into different groups and would have subfolders to do that. So if it didn't back up the subfolders, it would be pretty useless.
Yes.
Robin? Hang on, there you go.
Yes, thank you. Jim, you've been talking about using Google Drive PC. Can I do the same thing on an older iPad that I have? I'm running out of space on it. If I moved my photos into Google Drive and took them off the other part of the iPad, would that work? Can I do that?
You've got 2 options with an iPad. You can either use iCloud, which is what we're going to talk about in the next session, to back up your photos, and it will back them up to Apple's cloud.
Right.
It has the advantage that the iPad is set up to deal quite efficiently with working with Apple's cloud, and I'll talk about the details of that in the next session.
I'm actually booked into the next session, so I'll see that, yeah.
So you see that bit. As far as Google Drive is concerned on an iPad, you can back your photos up to Google Drive, and you can Google Drive then tell Google Drive has a facility where you can go and delete the photos out of the iPad storage. And from then on, you see your photos through Google Drive or through Google Photos. Probably Google Photo, if it's only photos you want to deal with, Google Photos would be the app to work with.
Right, yes. I have actually got them in Google Photos, but I haven't been game enough to remove them from my iPad. I was wanting a second backup.
Yeah, well, there's an option there to do it. I rely on the iPad backup rather than Google Photos, but it is an option.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Yes, Annette.
Jim, where is the Gmail backed up? Is that in desktop?
No, the Gmail is backed up in its own section. So
And-
there's a big lump of storage, which is your 15 gig, or more if you buy more. Gmail is using that storage, but you don't see it.
Okay,
Right.
so, and I don't have to actively do anything to make sure it's backed up.
No, Gmail is being backed up all the time.
Thank you.
It's in the cloud.
Thank you.
Right.
Any more questions? Well, I'd like to thank Jim very much for his presentation. And Netflix and sharing is going to be presented by GERD next week. So there's still some bookings there. You know how to book in for that, but that's Netflix and sharing. So I think you'll find that's a very, very good presentation.
Okay, well, thank you all for listening.